Hi there, my name's Alex Evans and I'm a hypnotherapist, and I'm from Change for the Better, and that's what I do. I change people for the better. Now you're probably watching this video because you have some kind of mental issue, or maybe you're just my mum just checking up to see what I do during the day. Hi mum, if it's you. And mental issues are very, very common things. They're things that we don't like to talk about, but at some point in our lives, 1 in 4 of us will suffer from some kind of mental illness or issue, or have some kind of mental problem. It's very, very common. Now, before I go on and talk about hypnosis, I'd just like to talk a little bit about how the brain is divided up. Now, if you are a brain surgeon, please don't write in and say that this is a complete load of rubbish, but I've just made it really, really simple so that I can understand it really. Okay, the brain is set up in 3 different parts. The first part is the unconscious side of your brain, and the unconscious side of your brain it deals with all the things like pumping the blood around your body and making your heart beat at the appropriate times. The other part of your other parts of your brain are your conscious side, and your conscious side of your brain it has all the thoughts and thinks about how to do things. It's kind of the logical side of the brain. So if you were on the Starship Enterprise, it would be the Captain Spock, and it teaches the subconscious part of the brain how to do things. Now, which brings me to the subconscious part of the brain, which is the most powerful part of the brain, and it's the part of the brain where all our patterns of behaviour are held, and also all of our belief systems are in there as well, and that sort of ticks along in the background, doing all the sort of things that get us through the day. Now, the problem is that these patterns that are built up in the subconscious part of the brain, sometimes they can be really good ones, sometimes they can be bad ones that don't make us feel very well, or they don't serve us particularly well. Now, the subconscious doesn't know this, and the subconscious is only there to make us happy. But for example, if I was looking at a big piece of chocolate cake in front of me, and it had cherries on it and lots of cream, and I'd be looking at it thinking, oh, that's a really nice bit of chocolate cake, but if I eat that, it's going to be really, really bad for me. It's going to pile on the pounds, it's full of fat, it's full of sugar. The logical part of my brain is telling me not to eat that piece of cake. Now, in the background, the subconscious part of the brain, which is a much more powerful part of the brain, is saying, go on, eat it, because you're going to really enjoy it while you're eating it. Go on, eat it, eat it. And if there is a fight between the subconscious and the conscious, the subconscious mostly wins, so we end up eating the piece of cake and then dealing with the guilt afterwards. Now, also in the subconscious part of the brain is where our patterns of behaviour are. And these are all learned patterns, and they're taught to us by when we're younger by adults and by our teachers. And these patterns are in there to try and make things easy for us. So when you're driving, you're not really that consciously aware of what's going on while you're driving, because the conscious part of the brain has taught the subconscious how to drive, and then it goes out and does it on its own. And while you're driving along, unless something momentous happens, you drive along and you're not really concentrating on what's particularly going on around you, because it's of no real sort of interest to you at all. So getting up in the morning, another example, you'll get up in the morning, you'll probably do the same pattern of behaviour. You'll get up, you'll have a shower, then you do blah 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 blah, you'll go down and have your breakfast, and you do exactly the same thing every single morning, because it's a way of getting things done where you don't have to think about them too much. And people like to have these patterns in the background because it gets things done, and it allows us to be thinking about other things while these mundane things are being sorted out by the unconscious part of the mind. Now, bad patterns of behaviour can be, things like, say, smoking, for example, where as we remember the first puff on a cigarette, absolutely disgusting, makes you turn green and makes you try and vomit. But you continue smoking, and your subconscious, in the end, it believes that it's actually quite a good thing to do, and because you're trying to fit in with your friends and with your peers, because smoking is probably quite cool, amongst them, and your subconscious thinks, okay, then I want to be quite, I want to be cool, and then you start smoking, and the subconscious part of the brain thinks that's a good thing for you to do, even though it makes you feel a bit sick, which does wear off after a while, and you end up building up a bad pattern, which involves doing something, having a cigarette, do something else, you have a cigarette, you want to relax, you have a cigarette, and then it links relaxing in with having cigarettes, and then every time your subconscious gets a little bit bored doing something, and it wants to relax and have a rest, it's have a cigarette, and you build up a bad habit or a bad pattern of behaviour, and you get stuck, smoking for years and years and years, and slowly killing yourself and spending all of your money. And actually, something like smoking is quite an easy thing to sort out when you've actually decided that you want to give up. So, that's easily attainable by most people's standards. Now, also in your belief system, when you were younger, as I said earlier, when we're younger, we have all these patterns. We have this belief system inside of us, and this belief system can pick up things from our parents and from other people in authority, like our teachers. And if you're told something when you're young by an adult, you do tend to believe it. So if you have really good upbringing, and you have good parents that tell you how fantastic you are all the time, and that goes down into your belief system, and then as you get older, you believe that you are a really fantastic person because you've been told that so many times when you were younger. But if, on the other side of the coin, if you've been brought up in an abusive relationship with your parents, and they hit you all the time, they told you that you were useless and you were worthless, and they wish they'd never had you, that also goes down into the belief system, and that belief system gets locked in there, and you take that into your adulthood, believing that you're not actually worth very much. And sometimes it doesn't have to be abuse like that. Sometimes it can be one thing that somebody says, and it goes down into the belief system. Like if your teacher says, I don't know, you're not very good at spelling, are you? You'll never be very good at spelling, and that's going to go, sometimes logs down into and becomes part of your belief system, so you believe that you can never spell. So you go into adulthood, and you don't really bother about learning how to spell because your teacher said you can't, so what's the point in doing that? So it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, hypnosis. Under hypnosis, it's a natural thing. You have been hypnotized before, as we talked about, when adults in authority, when you're younger, tell you something and you take on that belief, then that's a form of hypnosis in itself. It's quite a natural thing. Now, under hypnosis, all we do is really, I guide you through things. So I'm really like your pilot, and I shall ask you to close down your conscious part of your brain, so you're not thinking and analysing everything, and go down into the subconscious part of the brain and start to get you to use your imagination. And that's where all your belief system is built up, and that's where we can change things, to change your patterns of behaviour. So that's basically what a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist does, is he changes, or she changes, patterns of behaviour. And if you've learnt something and turned it into a pattern of behaviour, then you can unlearn it as well. So what I do is I guide you into hypnosis, and I take control of your subconscious and explain to you how to change it so that you can make things better, to improve your life, and as I said earlier, change things for the better.